Ready for us to start? Or you want
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'll kick it off for the vendor presentation. My name is Brandon Salama. I work with Keyence Corporation of America. Today, I'm going to focus on particularly our safety equipment. Keyence, as you may or may not know, we cover a large amount of products. We cover everything from your basic little sensor to tell you if something's in the correct position all the way up to high-end microscopes. Okay? We're pretty much 8 or 9 different companies shoved under one naming structure. And that's why today my main focus is just going to be on the safety aspect. For those of you that haven't worked with us in the past, the key things that I just like to point out about the company is that we are completely direct. We do not go through distributors. So everything we do is direct. That means that all of your salespeople are trained specifically in these products to not only help you with picking the right product, but also if you ever need support, application assistance, anything like that. Along with that, Cherry's in a really good spot because our main warehouse is literally right up the road in Itasca. So the majority of our stuff can be here next day, or you can drive over and pick it up if you've never had to do that in a pinch. So we're located right there. But aside from that, we're global, we're local. If you ever have machines going to other parts of the country or other parts of the world, and you need someone to come and help out with a Keyence product, you've always got a representative out there that can help so that it's not you jumping on a plane going somewhere if it's a Keyence part that needs to be looked at. So I always just kind of key in on that stuff, just to refresh people on what Keyence is all about. The line that I work in covers 3 main pillars of focus. We cover everything from your basic sensors that we talked about, so if you're ever trying to detect anything far away, close, color changes, finish changes, anything, we can do that. We do things including process equipment, so if you have liquid flow, air flow, pressures, things like that. But the main focus today is going to be in that top right corner in safety. So I really want to talk about 4 different types of safety products today. I want to talk about safety light curtains. I want to talk about safety area scanners. I want to talk about door interlocks. And then I want to just talk about safety controllers as a whole. These are our 4 large focus points in our safety pillar. So Starting with our safety light curtains. These safety light curtains, we've been doing this for almost as long as the company's been around. It's been one of our main focuses. Our current generation models, GLRs, which you can see on the front of the machine up here, have three main talking points that I like to go over. They're extremely strong, right? They're designed for any environment, right? We're talking about pallet diverters, right? What's around a lot of pallet diverters? Fork trucks, right? So you've got things moving around and damaged equipment. We're going to talk about how these are strong and designed for that type of environment. But not only are they strong, they're simple. These are very easy to wire into your system, take minimal effort from a connection standpoint, can be up in minutes, and then once they are up, they stay up and running. Due to the fact that they are pretty smart, and the fact that they offer operators and users several different features that allow them to know exactly what's going on at any point. So, before I get too deep into the strong, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, what does a light curtain do? A light curtain is very simply two things. A transmitting stick that is sending out light, and a receiving stick that is receiving that light. It is designed to be put around hazardous machinery so that if anybody interrupts that, it will stop that hazard and prevent somebody from getting hurt. So just to make sure we're all on the same page as to what a light curtain does. Now, that's any light curtain. What's unique about us? The first thing that I like to point out is it's very strong. This entire body is made out of extruded aluminum. It's 3 millimeters thick at its thinnest point. This thing is designed to take a beating. Not only is it designed to take a beating, the face of the unit, it's not typically the housing that will cause you problems, it's the lens. If you've ever scratched a lens on a light curtain, even if it's small, that can essentially nix the whole ability to use that curtain. So what we do is we essentially create our own version of a C-channel. I see a lot of C-channels out there where you're putting that around the light curtains to prevent any rubbing. Ours has one built in. What it does is it recesses that lens back, and anything that would be of direct impact hits this recession, hits this portion that sticks out, and that takes the brunt of the impact, not the lens, allowing them to work for longer. That means if you have a fork truck, I have videos, I don't have it to show today, but I have videos of fork trucks scraping against the sides of these curtains. They still work. I have a curtain that came from a large customer. The thing was almost bowed because it had been hit by a fork truck. Still worked. Right? Still works because we're keeping that lens safe. So that's part of that durability aspect. Of course, dusty environments, dirty environments, no problem there either. But from a smartness standpoint, one other thing that you'll notice that's very unique about our curtains is we provide full-length indicators. I don't know if you can see, but when you come by later on, what you'll be able to see is that we have indicators up and down the length of the curtain that show either green when everything's clear or red when things are blocked. This is great for operators to understand why is the machine not operating at any given point. If they walk up and look, if the curtains are green, they will know that it is not the curtains that are causing the issue. If the curtains are red, we'll know that there's some form of blockage that is creating it. Maybe I got to come in and wipe down that lens. So that's one thing that we kind of add on. You know, other models you might find that they try to add a stack light onto it or something like that. This is all built in. The other thing I like to point out about them is that it's very strong LEDs that we use for our monitoring. What does that mean to you? It means that if it is a dirty, nasty environment, if there is dust buildup or anything that could be covering this lens, it can more often than not pass right through it and allow detection for longer. So small amounts of buildup or dust or debris that gets on this will not be shutting down the environment, will not be shutting down the system. And then lastly, the most common complaint I always hear with light curtains is alignment, right? Especially the bigger the curtains get, they're more tough to align. And if I don't align them dead nuts, I'm going to be in a position where vibration takes it out, okay? With ours, we have 3 different ways of aligning them. First, those built-in indicators. Those built-in indicators are designed to tell you when the top is aligned, and when the bottom is aligned, and then when the center is aligned. That way, when you're lining them up, you can know, oh, I got to adjust the top, I got to adjust the bottom. If you want more than that, We have attachable alignment tools that you can put onto the front of it and make sure that you align perfectly, especially going over long distances. Beyond that, we have a software that you can connect to. And that software, as you can see on the right-hand side, will tell you the intensity of every single beam on that light curtain. So you can see where you are aligned, where you're slightly misaligned, or where you're not even seeing it. So we offer 3 different styles of that in which you can see very clearly, very easily, hey, I'm aligned or I'm not. And the nice thing about that on setup is that when you set this up, if you set this up and give yourself full green indicators across it the whole time, that pretty much ensures that vibration and things in the environment are not going to throw these off or cause nuisance trips. So that's one thing I always recommend, is that if you're looking at that, or if you're having nuisance trips, typically alignment is the main cause, and that's why we have these tools. Now lastly, I just want to mention the simplicity of it. We do offer 3 different wiring styles. The whole idea here is whatever works best for you. We have designs where you can run 1 cable from the transmitter to the receiver, and then you have 1 cable coming out. That's it. Now, if, like some of those machines out there, you don't have a clear space to connect those 2 together, you can actually wire them completely individually. So you wire the transmitter to power, the receiver handles everything else. That way you don't have to run long runs of cable from one to the other. And then lastly, we have your standard wiring, which will give you all the functionality you want, where the 2 wires come together. But the idea here is that you have the options to choose what's best. Aside from that, we have controllers you can connect to, safety relays that you can connect to, all with simple quick disconnects or just plug and play. There's that safety relay I was talking about, and I'll get to the safety controller a bit later on. Any questions on light curtains before I move on to the next one? Go ahead.
Is there anything lost from one wiring to the next? Is there functionality or features or anything, or is it all the same whether you choose?
That's a great question. So there are different things that can be done with one wiring scheme versus the other. Typically what we do is we sit down and talk about what features are you going to use, muting, blanking, automatic reset, and then what we'll do is we'll find which one offers that. But most of the time, for most customers I've run into, basic light curtain applications, all of those wiring options give you the base functionality. Now some you may need to use the software and change the switch, but that's usually about it. But it's a great question. Any other questions? All right, so that's our first one. That's our light curtains. The second thing I wanted to talk about is when it comes to our safety area scanners. So whereas a light curtain like this is guarding an opening, right, so that I don't walk into the machinery, I don't pass through something. A safety area scanner, on the other hand, looks at an area, okay? I have it up here on the top of this machine here, looking at the top opening, but most often you will find these on the ground, and they'll be looking over an area inside maybe where one of the inverters is, so no one's standing in there before the machine starts. So if someone was standing in that area, it prevents the machine from starting at that time. So if I was here, it stops my machine. But instead of being able to just do rectangles and squares with light curtains, with something like a safety area scanner, I can be more versatile. I can create unique schematics, unique floor plans around whatever obstacles may be in my way, so that I only detect a person standing there and I don't worry about a table leg or something else that may be in that same area. So with ours, the things that I like to talk about are 3 things. Versatility, right? Meaning that you can use this in several different places in several different ways. The superiority of the functionality inside of it, and then really how easy it is to use. That ease of use you'll continue to see throughout. Something we try to pride ourselves on is that anybody can utilize it. So when we talk about the versatility, this is that area protection style I was talking about. That area in which you can put it on the floor and map out an area. And when I say map out, I don't want you to be scared about that. You can literally hit a button that says automatic draw, and it will lay out that whole thing for you with 1 click of a button. On the other hand, we can also mount this vertically. So if you did want to replace a light curtain for maybe an opening that is a little more, let's say, challenging because it's not a square or a rectangle, you have the same ability here to draw the zones in whatever shape best fits your needs. And when I say that, when we talk about that versatility, part of the reason you can do that is we have a very long range. We can do up to 27.5 feet. And that's in a 180 degrees, 195 degree radius in which we can say, I'm going to draw this to whatever size I want. From there, whatever sizing you put in there is stored in the system memory, which means that if that scanner gets broken or battered, you pop that thing out, you put it in the new one, and you keep running. You don't have to go back and reprogram. And the other thing that I always like to point out from a versatility standpoint is that if you do have two machines close together, you can actually use one scanner and protect two entirely separate machines. Right? We talk about a cost reduction action there. In most situations where you would need two scanners, you can now use one in the middle and it can protect two completely different machines on two completely different safety circuits. Now, from an innovative standpoint, some things that are unique about our safety scanners. We were the industry's first to separate out the display. So while you'll see my head up here is detecting my hand, you can have the display down here outside of the hazard. So this display itself offers far more troubleshooting ability because you can walk up to it and see, hey, where did the interruption occur? Why is it off? What's currently in the area? And this can be mounted outside of your hazard, so you don't got to walk into the hazard and look at this display when you're stopping the machine. You move it outside. All that fencing you have around those machines, you put it, you mount it up on the outside. That's one thing that's unique about ours. The other thing that's unique about ours is its simplicity. When I talk about programming, I can always feel people start to tense up a little bit. But I want to tell you, the programming on this, it's all drop-down menus and radio buttons. That's it. When it comes time to program the zone, you're not doing Cartesian coordinates or anything like that. You're drawing it like this was MS Paint. Everybody remember MS Paint, right? It's all squares, circles, right? We have all those functionalities in there so that you can just draw very simple and it will pretty much take care of all of it for you. And if that's too difficult, as I mentioned before, we have that automatic drawing function where you just hit a button and it'll map out the area for you. The only other thing that was not in here that I do want to mention, though, that is very unique to Keyence is that we are the only safety scanner that has a built-in camera. What that means is that for customers that choose to use that option, every time the scanner is tripped and the machine is shut down, it will snap a picture. So what that allows users to understand is, hey, why is my machine stopping? Why on third shift do I have 3 or 4 stoppages that night? I had a customer that actually found out that they had a bird problem. So at night when they were running that skeleton crew, they actually had sparrows that were nesting in the building and causing these things to trip. So again, I don't think that's very common. More common, it's Joey who keeps cutting the corners short and shutting down the machine. But they'll know. I'll keep kind of running along here. So the third thing I want to talk about, the safety door interlocks. So the safety door interlocks, this is a way in which if you have access points on your machines that you need to make sure they're not open or no one's trying to get inside, like let's say a door, that you can shut down the machine when that door is open. Very simple, very basic technology here, but keeping the machine safe. The idea here is that these devices, we have 2 styles. They are very easy to mount and they're very easy to integrate. So we have one that is a non-contact, which means these 2 parts are completely separate. And when they are not mated together, the machine will shut down. One thing that's unique about ours is ours are designed to handle aggressive vibration. So even though there's aggressive vibration here, we're still not losing that safety signal. Now on the other side here, I have a door that will lock. We have models that will actually lock a person out of the machine while the machine is operating. Once I send the unlock signal, the safety hazard will stop. I can now open that door. Close it, lock it, let the machine run again. So both types, locking and non-contact, are available, both in very compact sizes. One thing you'll notice on the front here, these are those same devices, but they are also known for their very visible indicators. You can see here that this door is closed, ready to go. If I were to, let's say, take my non-contact here and open the door, very visible red light. The number of times I've heard people say that whenever the machine doesn't start, the first thing they do is go and slam every door again is is way too high. But the idea being that if you can see it, you'll know that door is red, the door is not open. So good, easy troubleshooting mechanic. And lastly, most of them are designed with metal bodies so that they can stand up to a rugged environment. From a mounting standpoint, they can mount from different directions, as well as the fact that we provide our own dedicated brackets. Anybody that's ever had to mount door interlocks is probably familiar with the fact that they have to manufacture their own brackets and usually prototype them themselves. We come out with a suite of mounting options to make that opportunity and that option much easier for those choosing to integrate. Lastly, we offer several different wiring techniques that allow you to connect multiple together at one time. The last thing I want to talk about is we did just release a new model for this last month. Last month we released a new model that actually joins the two styles of non-contact and locking, giving you the option to do either all in one unit. So you have the ability to choose if you want to use a locking or if you want to use a non-contact with these models here. They are designed with a built-in earth magnet that allows them to latch. So if you do have a door that closes, if you're installing a separate magnet to keep that door from closing, this has that built in so that vibration is not going to open this. We offer both hinge models and sliding models for either type of entryway or entry points. So again, these are great due to the small size, easy to integrate, and as you can still see, highly visible indicators for all that's being offered. Lastly, I just want to touch on our safety controller. This is what brings it all together. So if you want to use your own safety controllers because you're familiar with them, that's fine. All these safety devices will integrate with them, but if you are looking for an easier option for your safety control systems, I just want you to know that Keyence does offer its own safety controller. The safety controller is designed to be easy. It's designed to be able to be picked up and used by anybody. And it's designed to give you monitoring that you did not have before. So we offer several different expansion modules, but brass tacks here is the fact is you can do up to 212 different safety inputs or 46 different safety outputs, all with one device, giving you everything that you can put into either a simple or a highly expanded model here. On top of that, we also offer wiring saving models that you can put throughout your machine that allow for very simple quick disconnect connection. So if you're tired of free wiring all those bare leads, you can use quick disconnects as well and still maintain that level of safety. Aside from that, when you do use the Keyence products mentioned earlier, the one thing I love to point out is that if you want to talk about simplifying wiring, we've introduced what we call GC Link. This allows you to simply connect via one push terminal any of our safety devices, and all the wiring will be handled internally. So this cuts down on your wiring almost entirely, allowing you for you to just quick connect into the top of our device. It only works for Keyence devices. However, it doesn't have to be other Keyence devices to connect into things like the terminals or the quick disconnect blocks. But if you are using Keyence, this is a big feather in our cap for that model. And then lastly, I do like to point out that, again, anytime software comes up, we try to make it as easy and as simplistic as possible. We even design this software with an easy mode in. You literally go in, you select easy mode, you pick the devices you're using and what type of setup you want, and it will build the program for you. All you do is drag and drop which devices you want to turn off what equipment. It's very simple, very easy. Takes all that guesswork out of programming that most people kind of get a little bit nervous about. Lastly, what I would recommend to anybody is to come and take a look at the display. It's right up here on the front, but the display offers a level of monitoring that you haven't had before. You can see every individual safety device on that machine, and from there you can understand what's on, what's off, what's causing the machine to start or stop. For my light curtains, we talked about understanding alignment. I can see every individual beam on here and which one is blocked in real time, just from that display when using GC Link. So, the three things we talked about here today. Our light curtains, the GLR series. Strong, smart, simple. Our SCV, the safety area scanner. Very versatile, very innovative, very simple. The GS, those are our door interlocks, intuitive, versatile, easy to integrate. And lastly, our safety controller that pulls it all together. Easy setup, extremely easy, intuitive when it comes to the software, and the monitoring levels are unparalleled. Whew, I'm out of breath. Trying to keep it at 15 minutes. I apologize if I ran over. Are there any questions?
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Doesn't come up too often, but do the GLRs, are they able to cascade?
Yes, the GLRs are able to cascade. You can do up to 3 curtains to do 3 sides of the machine, or up to 240 beams total, whichever one comes first. But yeah, great question. They can cascade. The scanners as well can cascade. You can do up to 3 different heads connected to one system if you want to cover multiple sides of a machine.
That would have been my question. Can
Yes.
you put it back to back to do
360?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Really?
can. Yes, you can do up to 3 heads
Out to
connected to
27
one.
feet.
Out to 27 feet, yeah. It does not change because you have different heads connected. And again, you can also combine that with what we talked about. We're having the 2 different safety setups in one. So there's a lot of options there.
Can you do it in the corner? Can you do it in the corner and go this way? Like, you know how you had it on the top,
Mhm.
the area scan?
Yeah.
Put it in the corner. So any variation, 190 to 45.
Exactly. Yeah. So you take that, you can mount it anywhere, but you get that 190 degree and that 27 feet out. And then you can pull it in. If I don't care about this half. You just draw that in real simple. You just cut it out, like I was saying.
I've worked with these scanners before. Can you remind me, do these have different zones?
Yes. Yes. So if you want to be in a situation where at this point in time I'm covering this area, and then maybe a forklift is coming in, now I want to monitor a smaller area. Yes, you can switch between those zones, up to 32 different ones. On top of that, you also, I didn't mention, you also have warning zones. So you can have the zone that e-stops the machine when you set it, but as you're getting closer, maybe you turn on a little alarm like, hey, back off, you're getting too close. We could do that as well. We could do 2 of those warning zones and the safety zone all at the same time. Any other questions? I know I covered a lot. If that always helps. If you want anything, I've got brochures up here. Feel free to take whatever you want. Come look at this after the presentations are done. We'll leave it set up. I'll turn it off so they're not bugging me.
Thank you. Thank you.
The thing that we found out is it increases employee retention. When you go in and you're working for a company that has plastic or uses plastic, these screens safety, and it kind of it up to another level of, okay, this company is really concerned about safety, the safety of employees, safety of their product, whatever it might be. So it's something that makes people say, okay, just like with curtains, and what are we doing here to keep everybody safe? That's a major factor. Another thing is product and material safety. So when you're shipping product out, and it could be cornflakes, and it could be computer parts. It could be the product on the pallet is worth $100, or it could be worth $100,000. And these are all things that take into account. I think a lot of us have probably been in grocery stores before, and you can walk and you might see a trail of sugar leading from the back room, and you know where the baking aisle is because all you do is you follow that trail of sugar because they're going to take it right there. All of that is a torn bag, it's damaged product, it's associates having to clean up that product, so minimizes or reduces that. It increases associates' productivity. Again, when you don't have to clean up the wood chips, clean up any product that's been damaged. Productivity increases overall. And then when they're purchasing pallets, customers will purchase either brand new pallets or used pallets. When you're buying used pallets, you're not sure where those used pallets were. So if you're a food manufacturer and you're buying used pallets, it's you don't know where they've been. Were they at the Raid poison facility just down the block, and now you've got them in your facility. So when you start with plastic and you adjust the plastic, and we've had some very good programs with Cherries as far as because of the inverters. It's kind of like the inverter is the peanut butter and the bread, and plastic pallets are the jelly. They're just kind of that add-on. They just kind of go hand in hand with it. And then company equipment and asset safety. Plastic works great in automation. This pallet, day in, day out, doesn't matter, 40 by 48, exactly, 6 inches tall, exactly, dimensionally perfect. Comes from a mold, there's no changes, there's no modification. Wood pallets, you can go out and you can take any wood pallet out there and measure it, and I guarantee you that 90% of them aren't going to be 40, 48, but they're supposed to be. They're not going to be 5.5 inches tall. They're going to be trimming, they're going to be cutting, they're going to be saving, because every little half inch that they can save off a wood pallet, they can put it on the next pallet and make it, consistency is something that we've got going. Again, it works great with automation. When we're working with companies, we are always promoting that when you're designing a system, find out what your base is going to be. Sometimes this is the last thing people think about. It's like a pallet is a pallet is a pallet, but it's not true. When you're designing something where conveyors, lifts, electronic eyes, whatever it might be, come to us first, work with a plastic pallet manufacturer, because if you design your system and you say we need a plastic pallet, send this one in, and it's kind of like, we love it, but we need it 1/8 of an inch taller. Okay, well, we can do it, but it's going to cost you $700,000 because we got to make a new mold, because you can't add 1/8 of an inch to it. So those are things that we always try to find out. It might be what you might think is it's just the workhorse. It's just it's a grinder, and the electronics and the automation is where we're spending our money. But having the right platform can resolve all your problems. It also when you're working it with the systems, and we've had companies, I had a company just like 2 weeks ago, they called us and they said, everything had been running smooth and everything was good, and then they said, well, we have 2 broken pallets. And what happened? It was like, well, the guy got stuck in the conveyor, and the guy took a crowbar and he snapped it. It's like, oh, okay, wait a minute, let's take a step back and figure out why didn't it get through, why didn't it get through the system before, it's not damage caused by any type of unusual handling. So it's just going back, tweaking the system a little bit, and everything's fine. And then again, we talked about increased productivity as far as with your associate safety, as far as with product and material safety, but it also is when it's working on company and working with company equipment, when your machines are running because of having a consistent pallet, that just means it means everything is more productive. When the machines, when it's like, okay, you walk in and you hear the humming of the machines, everything is good. Everything is good. But when something's down, it's kind of like, why is it down? But with plastic, again, it's consistency, it's strength, it's durability, it's having the right solution, because there are many to choose from. But once you have that solution, you'll see an increase in all of those categories. So I know I went a little fast. I didn't have anything to light up. I'm going to be here for a little while. If anybody has any questions, anything, sir.
Obviously, we do lifting equipment, Kurt, and we often run into closed pallets versus in Europe where they always have open pallets. What is the deal? Why do they want closed pallets over here?
Closed pallets, explain
That
that.
bottom board. Why is there always a bottom board in the U.S.? Why can't it just be
They
open?
do 3 runners.
Yeah.
3 runners.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah.
But why?
Well,
I mean, the whole continent doesn't use them. Why do we do it over here?
I totally get it. And it's kind of, I don't know that. It's kind of like, why do we both drive on the other side of the roads? And, was it us being different as Americans? I know when we're selling pallets, because we have 3 runner pallets as
Yeah.
well. But when we're selling, it's kind of like, okay, if it's something where it's an evenly distributed load, and you're going in depending on if so say you've got these cut out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've got an evenly distributed load on this, and you come in on this way, and you jack it up, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
If you're working with, say, a distribution center, and they've got like, when you're working in grocery stores, we'll take a grocery store, for example, 9-legged nestle, so they got nothing underneath, right? But it's still kind of the same concept, if you will. So when they're loading, they want to, they know they have to put, okay, if they're putting soup on, okay, they're not gonna put the soup on just this side and then come back and jack up that pallet, because they know that pallet's gonna flip, right? I mean, if you've got all the weight on this side and it's just gonna pull it right over, if you go high enough.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna have a lean. So that would be, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying, but that's the thing that we'll sell them. We'll sell, 3 runner pallets, but it's kind of like, what are you using them for? And, if it's a 4-way entry, sometimes they want that, that inability to flip.
So to jump in, so what I learned many, many years ago is, here in the U.S., well, I'll talk about Europe first, is there's only a couple of size pallets, right?
Gold standard.
Right? Here, I remember when I first started working, it was like the roofing industry has their own size. GMA, groceries manufacturer, had their own pallet, Then you'd go into beverage, and it was their own size pallet. Automotive would have their own size pallet. So, and I think it was all legacy sort of a thing. So everything started with a wood platform, and that wood platform became the standard, kind of the gold standard. And a lot of their equipment was kind of based around that, or how they were lifting it up. It does make a whole lot more sense what they do in Europe.
I mean, it's
To have
just-
an 800 by 1,000 and 1,000 by 1,200.
1,200, right,
And to do it as a 3-runner pallet, but here, each industry has it standardized.
Right, yeah.
Because I didn't know if something would weight when it's up in the racking, if that's, but I mean.
Well, racking, definitely,
Yeah.
racking, if you're, no, so when we talk about racking, it's,
Yeah.
you know, there's, everybody here knows that, you know, it's a racking, it's sitting on two edges, it could be wire deck, could be supports. But with racking, I mean, I've got a pallet that can rack 2,800 pounds
Yeah,
with this type of bottom, because it's holding everything in.
yeah.
You put a 3-runner, you know, where you've got no, you know, supports there, you might be able to get 1,000, 1,200 pounds on it, maybe, you know, before, you know, because you just don't have these
Yeah.
holding it together, you know, that's.
A lot of companies do like having that bottom strap as well, when they go to lift it. So with the forklift, if it's just a 3-runner, you don't
Yeah,
have that
the
strap that
tippings,
holds it,
yeah.
right?
Correct,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But for us, when we do ergonomic lifting, then you gotta do a straddle and you got the leg in
I
your way.
know.
so-
Right, yes, and that's the thing, there's a lot, I totally understand what you're saying, where and that's the thing, when you look at, when you're designing, you know, when systems are being designed, you know, I know what you're saying, some of those scissor lifts or something can't have.
Can't use that, yeah.
Right? And so it's like, okay, we've got a scissor lift, so we don't want these, okay,
Yeah.
but in the end, it's racking 2,200 pounds. Okay, well, that pallet's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of, okay, how do we blend this all together? What are the give and takes?
Yeah.
You know, is it, you know, because you could do wire decking, you know, and that's probably the option you'd come up with is, you know, use wire decking because the delta between a 3-stringer and a rackable pallet 2,200 pounds is probably like $50. So, or 30, not 50, but about $30, and it's kind of like, you know, get the wire decking for whatever you can, and, you know, and then do it. But that's a good question. I mean, it's kind of like working, you know,
I mean, I
getting
know
everything
sometimes
that
habits are
married.
hard to kill, right? And if you keep buying it, you know, and that's the thing,
Right.
you know? Nobody
Yes.
knows why, but like you say, I mean, I was just talking to a huge pharmaceutical company. They had no clue about what pallet they were gonna use, but everything else was dependent on what kind of pallet.
Right.
So
Yeah.
people don't think about it.
Happens all the time.
Right,
It's
right.
just
happens all the time.
That's it, because it's that old, it's just a pallet.
Exactly.
But if you look, and you look around and you go, you know what? Everything in this building, everything in your grocery store, wherever,
Yeah.
was delivered there by some type of pallet.
Yeah.
You know, be it a custom, you know, long one or just a 40-48 or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, the other thing I could say that, you know, this is not comparing the US against the world, but, you know, pallets typically here in the US get abused, right? I mean, almost anything here in the US, from an equipment standpoint or from a platform standpoint, it's far different than Europe. You know, I think there's always this reaction of like, wow, these plants are pushing a lot of stuff out the door, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these places, the employees don't care about the platform. They don't care about that pallet. They're not viewing it as an expense. I'm sorry, they're not viewing it as a capital good, they're
As an
viewing it
asset.
as an asset, right?
Right.
You know, and same thing with the equipment. I mean, it's just
Oh, yeah.
lots and lots and lots of turns.
Yeah.
So I think over there is a little bit more care about, I'm gonna use this pallet and it's for this, and we're gonna use it as it's intended to do.
Process driven.
Here in the US, they view that just as like they would a wood pallet, it's a throwaway, unless they're trained on that.
Yeah.
And you almost have to design it for the worst case scenario, right? So I think that's the other reason why they do it, whereas full perimeter with the cross, you know, and it could be rated for the absolute worst environment, right?
Sure.
You know, I mean, unless you're asking specific questions, you're not gonna put it in unsupported racking, you know, unless you know that it's rated for that. Or you're just gonna buy the highest level that you can and put it in there.
Right.
Wood's different. Wood is structurally different.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, like you say, when they're converting from wood to plastic, if they're going from wood to plastic, well, wood has always been, like you said, it's just a beat up, it's a thing you beat up.
Yeah.
You know, and then when they see plastic, you need just as much communication about why we're doing this as you do why we're doing this.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, if not more, and I'm not taking away from, you know, any machine, please, trust me, I'm not. I just, but it's kind of like, these get, you know, I mean, come on, this has bells and whistles and plugs in and works, and there's all sorts of lights and sensors. This is just taking something from point A to point B, who the hell cares? You know, but 15 years from now, when they haven't bought 400 wood pallets and they've only stuck with this one, and all they've got is a big pocket full of money from not paying off wood pallets, you know, then they can, but that's it, it's all communication. This is what, the communication you do, this is why we're doing this, guys, okay? We're doing these and all of this for your safety. And this is kind of the same thing. It's like, remember Joe cut up his hand? Cost the company $200,000. Joe's out for 6 months. He has no feeling in 2 of his fingers. He's suing the company, yada, yada. You know, it's kind of like, you know, so those are the things, and it's kind of,
I want to say one more thing. So Jesper, you brought up another point when you were talking about this pharmaceutical company not having decided on the platform. You know, this often happens with us, is that people are always worried about the bright, shiny thing first. You know, like, hey, what sort of forklift do I need? What type of load transfer machine do I need? How am I going to wash it? And they're not thinking about the most valuable asset, which is that pallet. So until they decide what pallet's going to work for them, nothing else really matters, right? They usually come into that kind of back-ended, right? Where they'll say, hey, will my, you know, work position or work with any type of pallet? And you go, any type of pallet? We have to narrow that down. What is the pallet that you're using, right? I'm using a push-pull pack that's on a forklift, or I'm using a rotator, right? Will it work with this pallet, right? You know, pick and choose the pallet first, right? And then you may have to modify the equipment to work with that. Especially if it's something that's automation ready or plastic. Made a great point. You just can't add to it. You just can't add, you know, additional boards to it. It's molded, so you got to choose that first, and then look at the other equipment to work
right,
with it
right.
next.
I mean, there's ways, I mean, I've got a company that just recently came with us, and they have the same thing. They're using a nestable pallet, but they needed it raised. I mean, it was like, we just needed a smidge, just to get it off the floor. It's like, all right, I can do it, you know, I mean, it's like, okay, we can add rubber grommets that, you know, typically go on the top deck. They go on the bottom as well. We can add a rubber grommet, and that might add 3/4 of a smidge, if you will. You know, it might do it. But, I mean, yeah, when you're off, if you're off a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch or something, then it's kind of like, we've got to, you know, look at other options and look at other things. So. But very, very good question. Yeah. Well, thanks for the time. I'm gonna lay this down, John, because of safety.
Okay.
Zero Energy Star.
Yeah.
Sure.
Is it? Yeah.
It was. You need some?
No, I just wanted, so let him know that his blue one is the new one.
Oh, did you make?
Yeah.
2000.
Yep.
Yeah.
The black one was supposed to be,
Smaller
but
building that was in Benson. Then we moved to Pleasant Elk Grove.
Okay.
That was the.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh my God.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, so our next presenter is going to be Ken Capello from Atlas Material Handling Company.
Really exciting team. So I work for Atlas Toyota Material Handling. We're a material handling house. We're a distributor for Toyota lift trucks and equipment. So Toyota's become a couple different ideas, and also we partner with several different vendors for safety items. Kyle's going to bring up a Gem 1 system where it is a telematics, where it has different levels of safety. It's for operator entry, operator abuse. There's a lot more things that go with and stuff, there's different levels to it. The plug. Not a lot of outlets. So Kyle will go through the system, kind of give you just the basics on it and stuff like that. And then if we got some time, Toyota does also have another system, it's called the Sensi system, where we do actually have a lift truck here. It senses pedestrians and objects, where there is an alert for the operator while they're driving. So, you need a light plug?
That one doesn't work?
It works. So we'll go over through this system real quick, and then, if we got time, I'll bring up the lift truck over here. We'll just take a quick look. It'll only take a couple minutes and stuff, and you'll see what it does. And then if you got any questions after that, we can talk about it. Okay?
Hi, I'm Kyle. I'm with Atlas Toyota, as along with Ken. I worked with Ken a lot. This is the Gem 1 Sapphire system. So this is a telematic system that gets installed on forklifts, any sort of material handling equipment. This is what I like to call the best part of safety is accountability, and this offers that accountability. So anytime a user uses the forklift, they have to go through the Gem 1 system. If they're not authorized to use the forklifts, then they obviously won't have any access to it. This device also captures all your OSHA safety checklists, so no more pen and paper. It's all done through the screen. It gets saved on the cloud. It's available to view from the first day you use it until 5 years later. You're going to have all the data always saved. The Gem 1 system also monitors impacts. So anytime that there's an impact to forklift, the Gem 1 system will send an alert to supervisors, either through email or phone, letting them know that an impact has occurred. And after the operator turns the truck off, that truck is then locked out. So if someone else tries to get onto the truck, they won't be able to. They'll have to get a supervisor, manager to unlock the truck for them. And then that's kind of when we would see, why did this truck get locked out? We can go back into the software and see who was using the truck, what kind of impact occurred, where on the forklift it happened. It will it logs, it was on the front, back, or the sides as well. Operators typically will use PIN codes to log onto the device. However, if you are using RFID cards for building access, you can actually use that on the device as well, so no PIN codes are needed. As far as operators, they're essentially really only interfacing with this device to log on and to do their checklists. So there are going to be a pre and post start checklist. The pre-start checklist, the driver won't be able to turn the truck on until that pre-start checklist is fully complete. Then the system allows them to turn the truck on, and then you'll have to do the post-start checklist. Anytime the checklist item is failed, it'll let the supervisors know. If you mark questions as critical, if those critical questions are failed, it'll lock the truck out. Operators won't be able to use it until a supervisor comes to unlock it. The system itself also monitors the truck usage, so you can see which trucks are being used more, which operators are using more trucks, as well as all that impact as well. Any questions?
Now this, we put on all our lift trucks and stuff, and this can be put on any piece of moving equipment. Aerial lifts, tuggers, trucks, cars.
Trucks.
Anything.
No cars.
Personal.
I've seen people put them on trash compactors as well. So you can, like I said, don't.
So if you're looking to monitor anything and stuff like that, this can be hooked up to anything.
So this just monitors, does it limit speeds?
It does not know.
Okay.
There's a liability with that. If you restrict it, if the operator is in a process of doing something, it could hamper, it could cause
Gotcha.
injury and stuff. So
Right.
we've heard of delays where it would count down, and for the impact?
Yeah, after an impact, you could enable to, let's say, 5 minutes after an impact, it would shut the truck down.
Okay.
So then what you'd have to have is like a supervisor to reset it.
Correct.
And it would be there would be notification sent.
How easy is it to do? I mean, is it something you could do after the fact?
Yeah.
Yeah, can be field installed?
Field installation
Oh, yeah.
is available.
Yeah.
Actually, this is an aftermarket. So if we order this we install in our shop. If we ship like a new truck or something like that, or it can be done in the field. Toyota is putting together a system, a telematics system themselves. They had it a couple of years ago, and then they're redoing it and stuff like that. So there's gonna be a factory option within the next year. I think Canada does have the option right now. We've had it for the last 2 years. But Toyota has come up with a pedestrian awareness system that I'll show you real quick. You got any more questions? I know this is exciting.
It is.
This is interactive. So if you wanna come on and take a quick look.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for, yeah. Yeah.
I know we can't, but I know a guy who can do it.
Yeah, they always say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So expenses, so it's,
120-degree field of view camera. It is AI trained, so it is able to tell the difference between a pedestrian and, let's say, a guardrail or pallets. So that is something that you would be able to configure on, will it tell you if it only triggers for pedestrians or these objects for us.
so we're outside. So is I'm looking at where so any questions? It's a new system that Toyota put on their trucks. So it is a factory option, it's not standard. It is rather unique. I haven't really seen that. Anybody else that really has an offer? All right. Okay.
Ken, thank you very much.
Sorry. It is. You're next, huh? All right. Just wait for Ken. Ken's up. He is up, but I think people are asking him some questions, so. I've known him for 20 years. Have you really? Oh, wow. Okay.
I sold forklifts in Chicago. I was their competitor back in the 90s.
Okay.
They were, I don't know if they were the first access at Atlas. There was two towers on the south side of towers.
Okay.
And then Atlas came in and bought it.
Okay.
Because they had first access, bought them out and combined it. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not too excited.
I just learned a hell of a lot about pallets, so.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, really?
Who's the pallet cap? Yeah. What I want to ask about is especially for like the dryers. When they roll, so our pallet caps, right? Our pallet machines. Oh. So I think the problem we have is when it comes through, you have so much air, all the water doesn't come off. So I wonder if they've ever considered. Dryers.
to talk about lift tables and other products.
Yep, they start to good numbers.
Great, very good. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? Good. Thanks for coming in. Like I said, I'm Bruce Bolting. I'm the regional manager out of South Chicago for Southward. So a little bit of my background, just so you know, I didn't start yesterday. So back in the 90s, I was selling forklifts. Then I went to loading dock equipment for a Canadian manufacturer called Blue Giant, if anybody knows that name. And then the last 18 years, I've been with Southward. So what I put together, I kind of jump all over the place with my slides just to keep everybody from falling asleep. But we're the largest. So Southworth is the largest lift tail manufacturer in the world. So we have 3 divisions. We have Southworth Americas, which is what I'm part of. We design and build everything in Arkansas. Our main headquarters is Portland, Maine. So we're on the East Coast. We've been there since like 1885, so I know we're over 130 years old. And then we have Southworth America, we have Southworth Asia, and we have Southworth Europe. We also own the largest lift tail manufacturer out of Denmark, called the Marco Group. So wherever you ship your equipment, our equipment, we've got you covered. There's 10 of me across the country. I'm out of Chicago, and I cover 8 states, but there's 9 regional managers. So we've got you covered for everywhere, Canada, Mexico, everywhere. And you can stop me at any time. This is pretty informal, so you just stop me at any time. This is what's driving our products. This is a good slide. Companies today, well, since probably 08, 09, everybody that went through that, companies today are using fewer workers. They're trying to pump out equipment in manufacturing plants, but they got fewer workers. So those fewer workers have to do what they did when they had more, but they have to also have to be safe. So the remaining workers have to do more. The one in the middle, the red one, aging and obesity, that is driving our product line. That is plaguing the workplace. 1 out of 3 people are technically obese. So we got aging, which I'm contributing to both of them, by the way. I'm getting older. So that's what's driving our product. So they got to bring products up to a good working height. So I brought in one of our little lifts here because Craig has said through a lot of my presentations, where you always want to be is the ergo zone, the strike zone is that 30 to 40 inch range, right in here. We don't want to be down here, we don't want to be up here, you want to be right in that ergo zone, 30 to 40 inches. That's what all of our products do, is bring everything to an ergonomic working height. Companies can't afford to have injuries because there's nobody standing in the lobby to take somebody's place. Everybody has a labor shortage, you can't find anybody. Everybody's trying to find people. Every plant that I go into, they have a safety day or hiring, you go by signs. Every restaurant is trying to hire people. There's nobody to hire. I don't know what's going on, but there's nobody. So if you've got a good worker in your plant, you want to keep them because there's nobody to take his place, right? This is what we're trying to, at least what I do. And I like to go out into a plant. I like to actually go and see everything, get on a swivel, see what everybody's doing. So for the Gregs and Connies, and if you can get me in the plant, that's the best thing to do. So then we can see what's going on. Lifting, stretching, reaching, bending, stooping, walking. Unnecessary worker activities, fatigue. So that's what we're trying to eliminate with our equipment. This slide's a busy slide, but it kind of gives you a little bit of a kind of a snapshot. To give you an idea, we build everything from scratch. And we do a lot of custom equipment. So this little guy right here, this can lift 1,000 pounds. This little guy. I've had this thing for like 20 years. It's falling out of my car, it's falling out of the back of the truck. It's just, we build everything like a tank. We're not the cheapest by far. We're usually on the higher end of equipment. So when people call you and they say, I'm looking at a lift table in Global Equipment or in Green or something like that, it's probably coming from overseas and it's gonna be a lot cheaper than our stuff. But we build everything like a tank. It lasts. We got lifts over 40 years old in John Deere plants that are getting crappy out. So our low end on lifts, like these little guys, start at 500 pounds and we go up to 60 tons. So we build some lifts for John Deere that lift 140,000 pounds, that are monsters. They can be the size of this room. Give you a little range. We also get into worker platform lifts. This has been huge lately because they're trying to eliminate in plants. What we're trying to do is eliminate like ladders, rolling ladders, because people step on ladders, they fall, they drop their tools.
So what companies are doing now is they're gonna lift the operators up with all their tools. Sometimes we've had lift the people with their desks, their work desks, and stuff like that. This was a special one we did for CAT, where it actually was powered, so it's actually two L-shaped lifts that come in and out on rails. So they can back in a little Bobcat, and the guy can walk around and do whatever he's gotta do, or they open it up and they can bring him back in a tractor, a dumpster, a big dumper. Because what they were doing before was they were basically climbing all over the lift, all over the Bobcat, and people would fall or drop their tools. So these are just, I'm kind of all over the place. Give you some action photos. Here's another style of a lift. There's nobody on that one, but this is another style of a worker platform lift. So if you run across somebody that calls in and says, we got people that are going up and down ladders, or anybody that's working on real big projects, big equipment, they'll probably want to lift their operators up. We just built 4 6-foot wide, 27 feet long. It took us 3 months to build them. Lifts that go up 12 feet, and they're going into the Rivian plant in Bloomington Normal, because they're building all the Amazon spring vans, 100% electric spring vans. So they're lifting their operators up to get to the top of the vans. So, stackers. That's the time people don't think of Southworth for pedestrian powered, electric battery powered up and down. Stackers. They're good for small areas. If you want to work, maybe use it for a workstation, hold up a pallet. But if somebody's going across a 1 million square foot facility, we wouldn't be using that. Obviously, they're going to use forklifts. But if it's in a little area and they just move in parts and stuff, these are good little items to offer. We also have a full line of tilters. So tilters are for wire baskets, metal tubs, the thing that when you're working on a pallet, let's say like this plastic pallet, you can at least bend your knees, and relieve some stress off your back to do whatever you gotta do, right? But container tilters, whether it's a wire basket, metal tubs, they pose a problem because when you go inside the tub, you can't bend your knees because the tub's in the way. So you gotta do everything like this. So you do that all day long, and you're gonna get tired. So we have a whole line of tilters. We build tilters up to 30,000 pounds. We build some for like aerospace division, like Lockheed Martin, big stuff. And then we got little portable ones that you can push around on wheels, just to tilt a little basket. I use John Deere a lot because they've got like 500 pieces of our equipment in their plants, but they buy a lot of little portable tilters. I'll show you a picture of them. There's an example right there. Now, I wouldn't want to do that all day long. So that's one of our little portable tilters on wheels. Any questions so far? This is open forum.
I do.
I don't want to.
I have a question. You build those in
Okay, I'm gonna
stainless?
keep going. What do you want?
Do you build those in stainless steel?
You would ask that.
You asked if there were gonna be questions.
Not in stainless steel, but we build some for washdown applications. But we have. We do a lot of stainless steel equipment, but certain things are just a little tricky.
Gotcha. You.
But we
Just
do
checking.
build big lifts for washdown applications for the food industry. So, I have lift and tilts we built in stainless. A lift table that has a tilter on top. I have built that. But that specific one on wheels, we haven't done in stainless.
Okay.
But if you have a tilter application, you know that. You know how to find it.
Yep.
We also carry a full line at the top left there. That's a full line of the foot pump carts, the little foot pump carts. Everybody and their grandmother has foot pump carts. Every catalog house has foot pump carts. So I'm not a big fan of those because I feel like I don't want to do that all day long. And the little handles stick out and you bang your shins. And I'm not trying to not sell ours, but ours are a higher end. They're more expensive. They're a really good product, but I'm not a big fan of it. So I've always tried to push the battery powered ones on the bottom, the yellow ones. Those are actually pedestrian powered, but they're battery powered up and down, so you don't have to sit there and do that all day. Self-leveling. So we have a spring and a pneumatic. What these do is they react to it. So these are like, so our standard lift table that you think about is like powered, right? Powered up, gravity down, right? Some people don't want any cords, they don't want any hydraulic fluid, they don't want batteries. They said, I want something that doesn't need any power at all, nothing. What can you do? No. We have a spring loader, it's a self-leveling spring loader. So what happens is, when you bring your product, the pallet, your load, over on top of that yellow disc, it's a turntable, place it on the load will compress the springs down. But you're always at that 30 to 40 inch range. Because the top of that turntable sits at 29 inches. You got a 5-inch pallet, you're at 34, you're right there. Then it spins. Once you institute a, I can't say, somebody corrected me there, I said lazy Susan, he said, you can't say that for yourself. They're like, what if somebody's Susan's in the, I know, it's just, it's an old term, I'm a dinosaur, so I use a lot of old terms. Anyway, once you institute a turntable, you increase productivity by 40%. 40%. Because you think about somebody that has to load, say, just a basic palletizing application. Boxes are coming off of the conveyor belt, and I gotta put it on my pallet. What happens when I fill the one side of the pallet? Now I gotta walk all the way around the other side and start doing that. So instead of having to walk around the pallet, you just spin it. So 40% is increase with turntable. So these are self-leveling. So we talked about no power. These don't take any power, nothing. It just reacts to the weight. Why do we offer an air-powered one? That's in case, again, big manufacturing plants might have, like the automotive industry, has a lot of airline drops. So they just want to plug it in. But these have been on the market. We started this 4 decades ago. We are the original of the pallet. It's called the Pallet Pal, because it's a pallet of a pallet. So our patent ran out about 10 years ago. So you know what happens then? Nobody could buy these except through Southworth in the whole world. Once our patent ran out, everybody, now all of a sudden Grainger has one, Global Industrial has one. Our competitors now have one, but they're knockoffs, they're not the original. So what we did was on our spring loader, the spring one, we put a lifetime guarantee on the entire machine. The entire machine, little rollers, everything, it's lifetime. So if somebody says, oh, I see you're like $500 higher than this when I'm looking at a catalog, what's the warranty? What do they offer? Usually we can sell them into the original Southworth. And I have a demo unit of that if we have to do it. It floats around, but any questions on that one? Because sometimes that concept is a little bit hard to grasp.
Yeah, the pneumatic unit, I know it uses air, how does that function?
Same with the weight. Once you put the weight on, it goes down, or you take the weight off, it comes back up. But it's got a gauge. You gotta charge the bag. You gotta charge the bag. Yep. You sold a lot of these, haven't you, Ken?
I like them.
Yeah.
They're good equipment.
So I'll switch gears here. In a lot of manufacturing plants, they want to keep forklifts out of the work cell area by humans, and they keep them out on the docks, right? So now you bring your operator and he says, hey, I used to have a forklift, now what am I supposed to do? Well, they're gonna give you a manual pallet jack. Okay, so if I have a lift table that's sitting like 7 inches off the floor, how can I get that product on top of that lift table if all I have is a pump jack? So what we have is we have a full line of what we call zero lift, ground entry lift. There's a few different terms, but they're ground entry, meaning you can drive in with a pallet jack, and then you can scissor up. So now we've taken care of that. So if you get into a plant and they say, you know, we want lift tables, but man, we don't want any forklifts around. All our guys be at pallet jacks. What can you do? Well, we'll talk to Southworth and we'll get you a zero lift, a ground entry lift. And there's a few different styles. I don't want to go too far into it, but here's a ground entry one that has a ramp, but also a turntable. So we can look at that maybe. A lot of people like this one because it's open on all 4 sides. Then we can get into dock lifts. I don't know how much dock lifts you want to get into, but some plants don't have an actual dock door, or they just have a ground entry dock. So UPS, FedEx backs in, they can do their boxes. But when you get a big 53-foot semi, then you got to bring everything to the back of the truck. So this allows you to go up. We build these again up to 60 tons, but the most popular, about 65% of the market in the U.S. is 5,000 pound capacity. Because we figure 25 to a 3,000 pound load on a pallet jack, a human operator, or about 5,000. and then they're usually 6x8 handrails, they're designed to be outside. So if you run across a plant and they say, you know, we're having to unload semis, trucks, but we gotta do it by hand, we wanna be able to elevate somebody up there. This will do it. You can put them on the concrete, you can pit mount them, where we cut a hole in the floor, we'll drop it in the floor. All of our lifts, be pit mounted, we can build it, there's certain things we do, we kind of bevel in the corners, for tow protection, we take care of all that. Special custom designs, we also have a coil car division that handles steels up to like 60, 70,000 pounds. And they'll be on rails and they'll be in a steel plant. Die handling, these are just some action photos of stuff we've done. We've taken one of our carts and we can kind of fit some rollers on it to raise it up, maybe take some dies or molds if they want to move those around. These are just some, one on the bottom right, that was kind of a cool application. That was at O'Hare Airport. I tried to throw some action stuff in just because people don't want to just hear babble. That one was done, if you've ever been on an airplane and they say, you know, elbows and knees, come on in, I'm coming through with the cart, right? These guys, Pepsi and soda pop and pretzels, and you gotta come in. So somebody has to load those carts, right? So when they go back to O'Hare, or any airport, somebody's gonna sit there with their little pretzel bags and stuff that little cart. So we built that stainless lift right there that's ground entry, right? So they can roll their carts up, raise them up, and then they work at that 30 to 40 inch range.
Was that Flying Foods there?
Was
that Flying Foods?
I
looks like
don't
Flying
know, I
Foods.
can't remember who it was for, but I just remember it was at O'Hare, but maybe it was. It could have been. It was just a cool application, so that's why our equipment, I'm gonna switch it out here, but our equipment can be anywhere. Food, pharmaceuticals, airports, manufacturing, I mean, everywhere. We can be everywhere. So our product line is so wide open. So, okay. Another question that comes up, who do we call on at the plant? We've got the maintenance people, we've got purchasing, we've got the safety teams. Anyone, I guess, who do you think is the most important? Safety. So, that's a purchasing manager squeezing his suppliers. That's what they do all day. That's their job. That's what they do. All right. Maintenance department. Now, if there's a hunter out here, I'm not, anybody that's a hunter, I'm not. I did this one for a big distributor of mine in Iowa, and they're all hunters, and they didn't find this fun. But fortunately, I've known them for over 20 years. I just think it's kind of fun. Somebody said that to me. So the maintenance department, they're always tied up because maintenance people are always so busy. They're trying to fix stuff, putting out fires in the plants, right?
That's how they do it in Canada, by the way.
The safety people, EHS, environmental health and safety directors, ergonomics teams, that's who we want to go after. That's who we should own it. I mean, if you're talking to maintenance people, I don't want to exclude them. I'm just saying, if you got to zero in on somebody, go after the safety people. It's usually, and I don't like to use the term a blank check because that's kind of a stupid term, but usually safety is first. Safety is number one. So they can usually get projects pushed through. A lot of big companies will have ergonomic teams where they'll have like lead people in different departments. They come together once a week. Hey, Joe, what's got? Well, Bill hurt his shoulder. Hey, you know, Bob, what do you got? Oh, well, one of the girls hurt her ankle on the line, something like that. They get together. So those are the people you want to hold in there. I think that's about it. That's what I got. I kind of jumped around on you, but kind of gives you a little flavor of everything we do. So there isn't almost anything you can't do. And like I said, we will build stuff from scratch. So, any questions for me? Is there anything that didn't make sense?
How do you deal when a customer addresses pinch points on the lifts?
Usually we'll put bellows skirting around the lift. It's a thick vinyl skirting that's per order. It comes out of a stitch manufacturer, so per order. We don't have those in stock. And they're very expensive. Very expensive. But they're really good.
But does that actually?
We can do the skirting, it's a deterrent.
Yeah, right.
It's a deterrent. If
It's
somebody
also
wants to,
visual.
they can lift, it's thick vinyl skirt, they can lift it up, stick their arm and say, hey, chop my arm. I mean, if that happens, you got problems bigger than the lift table. But there's other ways, but everything that they do, everything that they do is awesome. So light curtains and stuff like that that's key. And they're expensive too, but you can't get through it. If you get through it, you're gonna shut the machine down. So that is a guarantee. We have bevel toe guards. We can do different things for toe protection. We can do that. We've got an electric, it's like a 1-inch square tube that'll run underneath the perimeter of the lift. So when the lift is going up and down, it rides with it. But if it comes in contact with anything, it shuts the lift off. So there's different ways of it, depending on the application. So that's why Connie has been doing a super job at getting application information, because the more we know, if somebody calls and says, hey, I want a 10,000-pound lift table. Okay, well, the first thing you should say is, what are you doing? What are you doing with it? Or a 500-pound table, or a tilter, whatever. I always say, and Southfield, sometimes people say, well, Southfield, why do you guys ask so many questions? I can call somebody else and they don't care. I go, that's why. We want to know what are they doing with it. So that if the guy says he's lifting 1,000 pounds and we send a 1,000-pound lift in there and it falls apart and we find out, oh, it's 5,000 pounds. You know, we keep job folders for every application. We want to know what's going on. So, anything else for me? That's it? Did it make sense? I know I move around. My ADD, I'm all over the place. You see a fly. So,
All right.
okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
I need that picture. I need that picture.
Which one?
The first one.
Oh, that's nice. He's fun. You have local. Or even, you know, like.
You sent this order like 3 days ago.
Just gotta give them some notes.
Like Paul said.
By that place when I was going to high school, Terry's, I took my truck there.
Give it to me.
Yes. Also been around.
Yeah.
We're talking about the airport. Is that a good idea? Paul's dryer. We're in the rinsing.
Yeah.
A lot of spindles were going on robotics.
That was the first thing.
So, now there's another one that sells officers.
Come on up, guys.
So we'll bring out the whole village people here.
The village people, I like that.
There's four of us, so it's a Y, I don't know how.
Right, the village, for the village people?
The village people.
I'm the picture taker, so I don't know about them.
Okay, so we have the village of, we have some representatives from the village of Roselle here. They are going to be presenting John an award for our
1,036 days accident free. I didn't give the second, so I think we're okay.
So that's Missy Brito, Matthew Galloway, and that's Jason Bolowski. Jason is our village administrator. And David Poleski, the mayor, couldn't make it today. So I've gotten the opportunity to meet you folks and give you an award that is very dear to my heart because I was on the safety committee when I worked at Dynamax. So, and I'll just read what's been prepared and then I have a few other comments. Cherry specializes in pallet transfer and material handling equipment for the array of business from automotive to pet supplies and more. Roselle welcomed Cherry to the village in 2021. Cherry is dedicated to safety and has achieved, well, you know, more than 1,000 days worth of accident-free. When we were all scared that somebody might have an accident today, you guys slam dunk today. The village is proud to present Cherry's with this certificate of recognition for their outstanding safety record. This is a certificate presented and signed by the mayor of Roselle, and we're very proud to present that to you, John. Thank you. I will say one other thing too. I want you to appreciate the company you work for, because a company that does this cares about your wife, your kids, your spouses. In fact, they want to keep you up and running because they care about you and it's a big family affair. So I think that speaks well of a company when they care more about making the dollar than they care about you coming to work and being healthy. I think that's very important. So give your company an applause.
Well, I have more than just a couple of words.
No conjunction.
Thank you. Yeah, and there won't be any crime today. So I've got really a lot of people to thank here. So if the music starts, right, it's gonna be like the Academy Awards. They're gonna be pulling me off the stage here, so I'll try and make it brief. So I want to thank the village. I mentioned to them, ever since we moved here in 2021, you guys have been an awesome partner. You've rolled out the red carpet. Just even this week that we had was really phenomenal. I want to clap to the village. So we had the Roselle Fire Department here on Monday and Wednesday. There wasn't a fire. We actually had some drills, and I'll go into that in a little bit, but it was really an awesome experience. So I want to thank the fire department. We have an operational culture committee here where great ideas come to roost. And one of the great ideas is let's do a safety week. And today is like the culmination of the safety week. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So thank you to our OCC. So our technology, we did pretty good today. So WebIT is our technology partner in Canal. Thank you for making this happen. First run, Allie we lost one camera, so that's a good thing. everybody that did a session today. Not only was it great for us, you know, there's such a knowledge base that's out there. So from CMA Flowdyne to Kaons to Southworth to Polymer Solutions, it's great to have people that are, I can tell, are very passionate about what they do, and to come in and take that transference of knowledge and share it with our group. So I thank you so much for that. We're going to take a lot of this, and as a sales and marketing organization, we're going to put that out there. Our customers are always asking us for this. We're very consultative. We don't just sell products, we really solve problems. And so with your help, we thank you so much. I think I missed Atlas as well, so thank you to all of our presenters today. So there is a special thanks here. So Herb Taylor, Canal, Natalie, said I wasn't going to cry. I'm not sure if I'm crying. Whoever had whatever the time is, you win the prize. But a special thanks to Michelle and Michael. Really, the amount of work that went into this. It's our first run, but it's really a great idea, you know, to say, hey, we are all about safety on kind of an external basis. Everything that we do every day to our customers is about how do we make them safe and productive. And it was just really a brilliant idea to bring that back to the company and celebrate it. You know, we talk about this. We looked at like 300 days where we're accident free, and then 500 days. And, I had mentioned this to other people. You know, we'll walk into other plants. You know, we're out, you know, traveling to see our customers, and you see that 188 days accident free, right? That's impressive. Man, 1,000 days. That's impressive, right? So today is a celebration with everybody here of being 1,000 days accident free, and I want to thank Michael and I want to thank Michelle for the yeoman's work that they did on this. So to both of them. So we had some great things that happened this week. So on Monday, we did fire prevention or fire safety. I loved it, man. We got to light a fire and put it out with a fire extinguisher. That was fantastic. Everybody that got a chance to participate in that, I mean, it was cool. It was really, really cool. On Tuesday, we looked at evacuation and some other safety procedures. And then yesterday, I thought this was really amazing as well. We did CPR training for the whole company. And I think all of us were like remembering maybe back when we were a lifeguard or scouting or whatever it is, and then we quickly realized that was 40 years ago, and we probably weren't up to date. So that was an amazing thing as well. So again, to the fire department for doing that. 2.5 hours. It was really the best training that we could have gotten. Also to be able to take that and bring it back home. So there's a lot of things that we did this past week where it's just not about the company. It's like, how do I be a better person? How do I be a better, you had mentioned like bringing stuff back home. That I thought was amazing to be able to have that knowledge. I even remember sitting next to one of our team members and even said, you know, I feel so much more confident, you know, knowing if there was a situation like this that I would just jump in, right? So very, very powerful moment. And then today was great too, that, you know, again, we had this knowledge transfer. I do want to just get back to a couple of things. So on the back of some of our shirts, and I know that we have it covered up, our motto is safe workforce and productive workplace. And yeah, that was one of those things that we, 10 years ago, from a marketing standpoint, we said, hey, how do we rally the troops? And how do we put this out there? And really, like I said, over the past 3 years, we said that's really important, that as our customers are coming in, do they really see that same thing, right? Do they see when they walk in the door that we're doing lockout, tagout? Do they see that the plant has got perimeter guarding in it? We're wearing vests. You know, we're wearing safety toed, or we're wearing glasses, right? And the answer was no, right? So So we made it an effort at that point in time to say, how do we make sure that everybody goes home with all these, right? You know, that they go back to their husbands or wives or children and they're safe. So that was a big thing. The other thing that we've done over the past 3 years is we've always looked at it and we said, how do we make our employees happy? How do we make them productive? And a lot of things that we've done is we've said, how do we take business philosophies and get them to bring it home? So I'm just going to go through a couple of things. So we talk about being financially safe and sound. I know it doesn't sound like safety, but that's a safety net if I've ever heard of it. So every Tuesday we go through our books. We open our books to every employee here. They get to see how much money the company makes. They know what how profitable we are. They know what their bonuses are, right? We've also taken that same philosophy, and many employees have created their own budgets. They've done their own financial planning around it. We've had some great success stories around that. So when you look at safety, it's also the safety net of the financial side of the business. I talked about the personal safety, so that was great, the CPR training and the other stuff. Productive workplace, so we talked about that. I think one of the things that maybe gets missed here is we really feel that if you're a happy employee, if you're happy here, it's less likely you're going to bring those problems home, right? So it's not every day. Many days, we have good days here. Many days, if you're happy here, you're happy, right? If you're unhappy here, you're going to be unhappy. So we talk about a productive workplace. We want to make sure that people are happy here. And then the last thing is, I think this is really important. One of our core values, you can see them up on the wall over there, is doing what is right, or doing what is right is always the best option. And I think when it comes to safety, it's the only option, right? So doing what is right. So Norman said this earlier today, that if you're ever in a spot where you feel you're uncomfortable, it's okay to stop, right? And that's really something that we're embracing and will continue to embrace. That's part of our value system and our philosophy here. The last thing, and it's important, it's the last thing. The operations team. You guys probably don't get a lot of credit. 1,000 days. It's you guys, right? 1,000 days of you guys being safe. It's 1,000 days of you looking out for the person next to you, right? So this wouldn't be possible without the operations team. So to the operations team. Now we're on to the next 1,000 days, right? So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for participating. Looking forward to doing this again next year. Really, really excited about this. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, you want any pictures with? Good. Why don't we do this picture and then maybe we can work on it. We do it out in the plant?
Yeah. Should we do that first?
I got
Michael, you should be out there with them.
Now all of a sudden he's saying, oh, HBO took it. Now he's changing the story. The problem is that both sides customer doesn't have a copy, he said, my wife was home when they were picked up, she did not, yeah. She did not want it to be picked up. XPO saying, somebody called in and canceled the pickup. So my thing is that, I think what he's trying to do is get it free and what's. What he said was, I don't want these anymore, I'll with someone else, yeah.
If you ever been electrocuted? I'm not electrocuted.
Maybe that's where it came one or after that.
It hurts.
Okay, yeah. Do you remember Glenn? Do you remember Glenn?
Which guy?
Operations.
And here we go.
Decade said no.
You had a team? You didn't carry the ball?
Let me talk to my supervisor.
Everything you blocked for me.
And then when I was bringing it to Rich, I was like, wait a minute. First off, he wanted to credit the beginning because his delivery was late.
So,
It was.
yeah.
Now all of a sudden.
So we got two
he's
sides.
saying that his wife was doing this.
Well, I said every lotto or. Did you
Now all
see
of
the
a sudden, first he was saying ABF, now he's changing the story because I came back to him and said, ABF, so what are we doing?
I've never seen yours. You got it.
And then it's just too much for me. I just see him saying, what I see him saying is he kept the bid, drilled his own hole, and now he wants some credit for it. He's gonna say you gotta move somewhere else, and he really probably did that. And now he wants $1,200.
What do amateurs do?
Oh, yeah.
Better price than
Yes, this time contact. I said to him, I said, I'm not making it. It's got strength. It's got strength, but.
Should we get the whole team with a picture?
Way.
All employees, let's go get a picture.
Somebody else here, they also saw an opportunity to pick them up. Sold them.
Nice.
But that's not on, that's not
The mindset behind that is kind of like this door right here has a lot of error.
I hate to say it, but it's mine, but I don't have to work for it. Think about it, if you went through all of it, you know, you would feel the same. I feel it's like, I don't think he's
You know, we're just have to spend
I really don't. I think he's, after thinking about it more, I think he's very, he was upset, he was mad. He didn't get his product the way he wanted it, he didn't get his product on time, and now he wants a full credit, he don't know anyways. Yeah, no problem, return it, charge back. Yeah.
All right, come on, everybody.
We're getting the whole team picture.
Yeah, okay, good. Then I will get that.
Oh, yeah, we can keep a little bit.
Oh, no, yeah. But you don't gotta use our rods, you can use our safety controller. Tell Cherry to start putting some Geo hot light curtains on there.
Data logic, come on now.
Yeah, I saw the data logic out there.
Oh, everybody's somewhere. Do you guys have those problems?
I would say about 85% is same as it's always been, and 5%, 10%
off about a month out? What about you? What do you see?
All over the map, depending on where stuff is. There's some stuff that's in stock, there's other stuff that's
Oh, yeah.
little circulators. Usually off the shelf, 8, 10, 12 weeks.
I heard of the variable frequency drives are insane right now.
Motors, we have a lot of stock as well. Variable frequency drives.
Any safety issues lately?
Not recently, but I know.
That's the one I've tried hearing some places. One brand.
A lot of them are
The nice thing, the thing for us that actually helps us in a lot of our stuff is, since we don't I'm taking something home right now.
Well, here, I'll take mine.
That's why I said.
I mean, there's probably gonna be enough for lunch tomorrow too, but if you wanna make sure people get to take some home.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That shows the difference there, you know?
No, but the only thing that was kind of like.
That was design there for
For a while, it's probably tough.
Yeah.
Oh, there's still another section?
Yeah.